In today's interview, we're talking about diet and nutrition. We're talking about the psychology of eating and really what are the best nutrients for our bodies, especially relating to prostate cancer. So we're going to be speaking with Mr. Verne Varona. He's a world-renowned international speaker. He's gone all over the world giving energetic talks. He's so funny and so captivating, but he understands microbiotics. He understands how the body works, what our blood is doing when we are eating. There are so many different facets to our body that he is going to help us understand. We're going to talk about, animal products. We're going to talk about choline and eggs, questions that you guys have asked in our comments. So today, as we interview him, go ahead and leave more questions and more comments in the comment section below this video, as we're going to continue this series with different people in order to get your diet and nutrition questions answered. But today, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Varona, and I hope you find this educational. Thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor. You've spoken at our previous conferences, and it was always, the feedback from the patients was always tremendous. And diet's such a huge topic across the world in any area, but now when it comes to prostate cancer, I think, people are wondering, they're looking for something that they can control, because in an uncontrollable situation like cancer, when you're not really sure what type of cancer it is sometimes, or you find out and then you have to choose a treatment, there's just so many unknowns. But so many people can go back to diet and start to kind of come into a lot of education. And even in prostate cancer specifically, because 50% of prostate cancers are not going to metastasize as Gleason 6. We've had many, many men say, and a lot from even the conversations you've had with them at the conference, that it's been life-changing getting prostate cancer because they've never paid attention to diet before, and now they are. So the big question that we get on every video that comes to, when it comes to diet or nutrition in prostate cancer, is what's the best diet for prostate cancer?
That's a great question. And first of all, the word diet needs to go through some revision, because diet implies a rigid format. And the first thing you have to learn about dieting is you cannot be rigid, because there's a universal axiom of extremes that happens. The more you go towards this way extremely, you're going to go to this way. That's what happens with people who become diet crazy. It's like, it becomes a new stress in their life. And there's always a sense of deprival, because you want other things, but you're not letting yourself have them. So my approach to that is, let's create more value by understanding why you're doing this, by understanding what will happen in your body when you do this, and through your experience, which will happen in a couple of weeks, usually actually 5 to 7 days, what will that experience be? Regular bowel movement, regularity. And you know what? When you've had constipation condition for a long time, and suddenly you're liberated, it's an amazing experience for people, because they call you up and all they want to do is talk about their bowel movements. So it's like they'll call up and they'll say, "You got a minute?" I'll say, "Yes." And they'll say, "I have the most incredible, this diet." Because it's, as you said, they have a marker of experience of a negative aspect, and suddenly it's really positive. That really sells people. They see for themselves, and that's the kind of motivation that's best, because it's more about loving yourself than it is about following a rigid pattern. Because those rigid patterns eventually fail. There have to be some guidelines, but only for a short while, because if you do it right, you'll become more sensitized and you'll see what works for you. When I have clients that I meet who have prostate cancer and they begin to change their diet according to the general principles I'm recommending, what we see right away is, number one, sleep gets deeper. Okay? Sleep is really important for healing. You got to rest. And ideally, 1 hour before 12 is worth 2 hours after 12. But it's been confirmed by some interesting studies on melatonin that we produce our chief melatonin amount between 1 and 2 a.m. When you miss that, if you're staying up late, you don't have as much deep quality sleep, maybe more REM sleep where you're dreaming a lot, but you don't get that really deep, nourishing sleep. Deep sleep is when somebody wakes you up and you're groggy and you feel completely out of your body. You've been in deep sleep. And now there are smartwatches that can show you your heart rate and how deep your sleep is. They're really fascinating to see and to chart from your own experience, because rest is really important for healing. I ignored that for years. I used to go to bed at 3 a.m. For 20 years, I went to bed at 3 a.m. And at some point, I realized, I'm missing that early morning zestful energy. They call it in Chinese medicine, they call it early yang. The deeper your sleep will be, the wider awake your days will be, and the more energy you'll have. So it really turns into itself in a cyclic way.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I think that there are so many factors when it comes to health, and I think that when patients are kind of in an overwhelmed state, that they don't necessarily understand how many factors there are and how it can benefit them if it really is going in a positive direction. So I would say that the number one thing that we hear about in prostate cancer is that you should not be having red meat, and that animal proteins are bad for prostate cancer and could possibly cause it to either grow or be harmful in some way. So,
you're kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's a lot of research to support that. But you know what? That's irrelevant when you're talking to somebody that eats meat all the time. They have that taste in their mouth. They have that memory. For them to associate this as being... See, it's very difficult for people to look at food as medicine, because we're doing it 21 times a week. We have to take a different consciousness and say, all right, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try this. As long as in your experimenting you see that what you're eating is not aggravating your condition, it's not lethal, it's not poisonous, then you could risk trying it for 2 weeks. You'll see in 2 weeks. What will you see? As I said before, deeper sleep. You'll have more energy, which is the number one thing, because that's the first marker of something that something is amiss in your body. You know, your appetite usually becomes restored very quickly. You have a stronger sense of will. So all those factors make you feel like, wow, this is something different. And what is that? You're changing. But what are you changing? You're changing your blood quality. You're changing your blood chemistry. Now, years ago, when acid and alkaline became popular and people started talking about acid and alkaline, this stuff there's so many holes in it that you have to look at it in a really broad way. We do know that acid fosters inflammation. That's a fact, okay? We do know that if you have acid indigestion, one of the remedies for that might be Alka-Seltzer or baking soda. Why? It's a 9.1 alkalinity on the scale. It's highly alkaline. It's not something you want to do all the time, but it can neutralize acids. But instead of thinking about, well, what can I take if I get this? Let's just reduce the things that will aggravate you. You know, you have to look at this as an experiment that you do. And you have to get educated first about how to do it. And then you do it with some support around you. Not just go out to the store and say, oh, I'm going to buy some lycopene. Lycopene is good. First thing I tell people is that there are whole foods and there are food products. There are foods in their whole natural state, and there are foods that humans have messed with. So when we start putting our hands in there and adding things, box, packs, frozen, we run the risk of abusing those foods, of making them toxic, essentially. I don't suggest a lot of food products. I suggest more whole foods. They're a little different for people. One of the things I suggest for people is eating whole grain every day. It just makes people nuts. Because when you see a package of bread, it says made with whole grain goodness. Ah, of course, that's what he said. I should get this. No. Bread is not a whole grain. It came from a whole grain. Originally it was a whole grain. But now it's a food product. What's wrong with products? Well, just on blood sugar level, grain is a particle food. So when you eat grain, it absorbs much quicker. It will raise your glycemic index. So in studies that have been done that showed grains raised glycemic indexes, they started saying, don't eat grains. But then we realized, wait a second, if I put a little bit of oil in my food, it brings it down from a 98 to a 58. It brings it much lower. If I put a little fat in the diet, sometimes it'll do that. So it's not about the individual diagnostics of a glycemic index. It's about, in concert with other foods, how it affects you. If you're eating whole grain, 5 things happen. Number 1, you get more bowel regularity every day, okay? Number 2, you get more vitamin B and vitamin E. Number 3, you get more blood sugar regularity. It levels your blood sugar. When you eat grain for a long time, you feel much more calm. You're eating a complex sugar. What's a complex sugar? Grain is a carbohydrate, so are vegetables. Even beans are carbohydrates, actually. But grains are a complex sugar, as the vegetables are. That means the molecular structure is like 3,000 to 5,000 molecules. They got to slowly break down, so you get a very slow rise in blood sugar. If you're eating refined sugar, or sugar, white sugar, they're called simple sugars. And simple sugar has 1, 2, 3, 4 molecule structure. So on your tongue, boom, it's in your blood, chemically. Years ago, I used to tell people that sugars, because they're acid, will create acid blood. But the truth is the blood has what we call a buffering system. It doesn't let you get acidic. puts minerals in there that neutralize the acid, which is great. But where do those minerals come from? Your bones, your other sources of minerals that your body has stored. It's called a buffering mechanism. If we are eating refined foods, refined carbohydrates, as opposed to complex, it's a world of difference. So yeah, the only thing I say to people, and I tell them this in the beginning, is that I'm going to recommend you eat grain every day. Not a huge amount of it, but every day you're going to eat maybe half cup to 3/4 of a cup, cup and a half, up to whole grains. That might mean in the morning, 3/4 of a cup of oatmeal, maybe a half a cup of quinoa at night with your meal, or if not quinoa, millet, or brown rice, oats. I mean, there are whole grains that we don't really have any idea. We just, because we eat the refined products. So the real important aspect is whole foods versus food products, and then looking at what we call principal foods. Every culture in the world that you've visited or you study that had an agriculture ate the same way. They ate whole grains, they ate vegetables, and they ate beans. Now, I don't care where you go. I've been to 17 countries in the past 3 years. I've seen every single culture that had an agriculture. I've seen many of them, and yet they still have remnants of their traditional eating. That's what I'm recommending to people. You need to eat grain on a daily basis. Not a lot, but some grain is important. Lots of vegetables. And vegetables, people will say, I'll go to a party, and people will come up to me and say, you're the nutritional guy. I have a healthy diet. They're always thinking about quality. I eat pure organic food. Everything's organic. I get people come and bless my food. Those are all energetic considerations. And when you also talk about quality, that's a secondary issue. What's primary? Complex carbohydrate versus simple carbohydrate. Fat, high fat versus low fat. Protein, excess protein versus minimum protein. Or animal protein versus vegetable. So really getting back here in answer to your question, animal protein is not good for somebody with prostate cancer, period. You have to find that out for yourself. So yes, find that out. One of the reasons I started getting referrals from different physicians, particularly for prostate cancer, was because eating grain, bean, and vegetable brings down your PSA pretty quickly. Then you start to see results, and you get a very different attitude about it. You learn to like it because, you know what, this is sustaining me. I feel better eating this way. Yes, of course, I'm having treats, and maybe you want to have a bite of this and that here and there. But essentially, we need to look at the overview of we need grain, bean, vegetable as our main food. And I always leave a little section of the pie plate empty. I call it WEYW, and it means whatever you want. You have to give people some flexibility. I found something really interesting. When I said, do not eat any sugar, do not eat a lot of animal protein, reduce it to once, twice a week maybe, they couldn't do it consistently. So if we're looking at the whole gamut of animal protein, one of the reasons why it's ineffective is because it's got too many acids in it, okay, as a protein. The breakdown products of sulfuric acid, ammonia, and a number of different products, uric acid, are all present there. But more importantly, it's marbled with fat. You can't cut it away. It's marbled with toxins that go into the fat tissue. That's another argument that's completely secondary, which is the quality of meats. Some people say to me at a party, they'll say, well, I eat organic everything. That's a quality issue.
It's always the grade 4 whole foods. Like, I eat grade 4 whole foods red meat, right? I'm
exactly.
fine.
I hear that all the time, exactly. But also your insistence on eating just quality or making that the major marker, that's like saying, I like you very much, and I'm going to hit you over the head with a 2x4, but I'm not going to use pine, cheap pine. I'm going to use really quality mahogany. Is that a consolation? No, it's still going to hurt. And that's the point. You can't talk about the dressing. Okay, let's talk about the substance of chemically what it is. And the last thing I want to say, just to give the overview here, is that our blood cells have a lifespan of 100 to 120 days. That's the basic lifespan of a red blood cell. If what we eat becomes part of our blood matter, essentially, you are sitting here before me with your last 4 months of eating still fueling you chemically. Okay? We're always getting that change. If you change your diet for only 10 to 12 days, you've only changed about 55% of your blood, which is your liquid, your plasma. 1 to 2 weeks, figure about 2 weeks, you'll begin to see really major changes in your diet. But they start to see right away. So it's important to get people to experiment in a way that's encouraging, in a way that they're motivated, as opposed to, doctor, put me on this diet. I'm going nuts. I want meat. Because they really get like that, you know. I get people call me saying, they start negotiating. Let me ask you, can I have like a little bit on Tuesday? Wednesday morning, I always go out to guys, we have hamburgers. What? They'll start and I'll say, do you want to heal yourself? Because that's what we're talking about. You got to put all that aside. I'm not saying don't ever, and that's the problem with clients. They always go there. Don't eat meat. Meat is bad for prostate cancer, you'll say. And they'll think, I can never eat it again. Just don't go there. Let's just try an experiment to see how you feel. Because you know what? You're going to change. Your thinking is going to change. Your sensitivity is going to change. Your consciousness socially is going to change. You're going to go through a lot of changes. If you're not willing to, it's going to be an uphill battle. You'll have groups of people fighting with each other, the carnivores against the vegetarians. And I'm not saying one or the other. I'm saying for this particular condition, there are certain factors in the carnivore diet that will really aggravate you. This is not about keto. Forget that. This is about sustaining your life in a way where you're eating which won't affect your blood sugar negatively, which won't give your liver a lot of new byproducts to deal with, which will have your gut bacteria not threatened. Sugar will threaten your gut bacteria, which is your absorption of nutrients. You know? So we're taking supplements and thinking, oh, this is all I need. You go 3 steps forward with a supplement and 5 steps backwards with your diet. So I like to work primarily with diet first, and then we enhance it. There are all kinds of things that you could do that are concentrated with nutrients that can accelerate, but it's not the main therapy. The main therapy is every day what you do.
So are chicken and things like seafood and chicken on the same category of intensity as red meat is when it comes to animal products?
Not really. Well, yes and no. I mean, fat-wise, yes, almost. People always say, well, we only eat chicken. We don't eat red meat. It's almost the same thing. It's animal food. Animal food is animal food. And we're not designed to eat a lot of animal protein, period. We don't have that structure. A carnivore has pointy teeth, canine teeth to tear. They also have 9 feet of gut as opposed to 30 feet of gut or 28 feet of gut. So it has to circuitous motion in our intestines, and it ferments, and there's a lot of problems that occur with digestion of it based on the volume you eat. But we never ate the volume we eat today of meat. My recommendation is animal protein. I don't personally eat animal protein. Once in a while I might have fish. In the past I've done that. But basically, I feel better without it. And if I want it, I'll let myself have it. But I haven't had animal protein. I've had meat since 1969, so I'm happy. But and if people like it, I don't have a problem with that. But if you're sick and you're eating foods that are going to aggravate you, then we need to be enlightened about another way to experiment with, as opposed to, I'm now a vegan. Be a vegan for a little while, experience it. What most people do when they become vegan is they don't eat anything that walks. And it's just not enough. Traditionally in the 60s and the 70s, the idea of vegetarian was eat anything that's not animal, but they would eat their weight in sugar. And vegetarians look, to me, most vegetarians that I see, emaciated, tired, food obsessed, and blood sugar dependent. They're constantly eating sweet. Now that's not as a whole class, but generally speaking, in the numbers that I've seen, I see a lot of vegetarians that don't know how to eat. So if you want to eat vegan diet, you need grain. And you need to understand that you will be much more sensitive to the effects of sugar. So if you're eating basically a vegan or close to vegan diet, animal protein a couple times a week, let's say, and then you go and have a real sugar binge like you used to, it has a more catastrophic effect on you because your sensitivity is greater. The studies that have shown in terms of research is a glass of orange juice, a regular standard full glass, big guy, is about 100 grams of sugar. That will knock out your macrophages, your white blood cells, which which is part of your immune system, for 4 to 6 hours. This was research done by Roy Swank, a physician who dealt with multiple sclerosis for years, wrote books about it, and then it was duplicated in many other aspects. Roy was really big on no fat, low fat. And the problem with sugar, as I mentioned, is that it aggravates the gut flora. The problem with fat is that it makes the blood cells stick together in excess. It's called blood cell aggregation. And there are other things that can cause the blood cells to aggregate. But the bottom line, when you aggregate and blood cells stick together, because the blood quality is now sticky from eating too much fat, when they stick together, it looks like a penny roll from the bank. Blood cells are stick together trying to get through the capillary, and they're not liberating the oxygen molecules. So in research that they did with people who ate a high-fat diet, with animals that they gave as well, hamsters they used, they gave a hamster 78% fat. And they found within 4 to 6 hours the cells started clumping. Oxygen content was reduced by 32%. We know lack of deprivation of oxygen from Otto Warburg, who got the Nobel Peace Prize in the 30s, will feed a cancer. Just like we know a cancer cell has 7 times greater need for sugar than an ordinary cell. So these cells will get the sugar first. Some people don't grasp what sugar really is. How many feet of sugar cane do you think are in a teaspoon of sugar? It's really interesting. It's like, when I lived in Hawaii for a very short while, and I went to sugarcane plants, and it was amazing what they have to do to break a sugarcane and wash it and cleanse it and then pulverize it and spin it in a centrifuge and do all this stuff. It takes 3 feet of cane to produce 1 teaspoon, basically, if you're looking at sugarcane, not beet sugar. 3 feet of cane for 1 teaspoon of sugar. The average North American is eating 17 to 25 teaspoons of sugar a day. So the average North American is eating 40 to 60 feet of sugarcane a day. We are not designed to eat that way. If we look at our structure and we think about, well, what's the most compatible diet for the human, you know, based on our tooth structure, based on our intestinal length, based on the fact we don't have claws, based on the fact we have saliva, which has enzymes in it, tyalin, which salivary amylase they call it these days, which helps dissolve carbohydrates. So grains are beginning to digest here. The more you chew, the sweeter they actually become. But we don't chew. We bolt. Modern food, you can't chew it. You eat a lot of refined food, there's no taste if you chew it. You want to swallow it and get the next mouthful in there. I have a handout, it's on my website. It's myname.com. It's sugar cravings, about sugar cravings. 10 reasons I put for why people have sugar. Now, this is not, I didn't create this. Based on counseling people for 40 years and questioning them and looking at diet records, I started putting it together and said, wait a second. So the more animal protein you eat, the more sugar you want. Modern food, modern fast food is nothing but animal protein, sugar, and some fat in the middle. You know, so we eat more animal protein, we want that milkshake at McDonald's, and we want that apple turnover. And our blood cells are getting thicker and thicker, and we're getting more tired. And that's why you get tired at Thanksgiving meal. You had a big, heavy, fat meal, and you're like, Mom, that was great, Mom. I'm so tired, I just want to lay down. So there are lots of different reasons. There are 10 different reasons I catalog. Like waiting, this is what most men do classically. They wait long periods of time between the meals. They'll have a lunch, big lunch, and then they'll go a whole afternoon without eating anything, and they'll get home, and I'm starving. And their blood sugar all afternoon has been going down, 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 down. They get home for dinner, I'm tired, just give me something to eat, I'm hungry. They eat, and then the blood sugar goes like this, watch. After dinner, what happens? I want something else. You got anything sweet? They gotta get the blood sugar up. So it's a chemical issue that we're going through, and we don't realize it. This is something interesting that Dr. Schultz said about prostate patients, is that he sees more benefit when they stop the animal protein and salt and when that heavy element and fat, when they reduce that, it's more beneficial. Yes, he has said sugar is not recommended in that regard as well. But what sugar does for prostate cancer clients is it knocks out immune function. It weakens immune function. You need that because that's how you heal. I don't believe they're cancer-fighting foods. I think that's just marketing. Yeah, there are foods that have elements in them that are good for cancer, that help. Resveratrol in wine, great. Does that mean you should drink alcohol? I don't think so. Alcohol is 10 times more concentrated than sugar. You have to just try it simple and pure. And what does that mean? It means grain, vegetable. I'll go to a party and some people say, I eat a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of salad. Salad is a cooking style. It's not a vegetable. There's steaming, there's pressure cooking, there's raw, there's saute, there's baking, there's blanching. There's a lot of different cooking styles which will give you a variety of tastes. And really often we like the crunch. We like crunch. And if you don't have some crunch in your diet, you're going to be like opening the refrigerator and just staring at it and thinking, what do I want? What do I want? There's a lot to it, but it's not that complicated. You just got to put one foot in front of the other and start chewing. That's really kind of what it amounts to. There is a consciousness in nutrition about reductionism. It's called reductionism, which is reducing things to a part. And this is a big problem in nutrition. This is why so many nutritionists have all these different ideas and why it's so overwhelming field. Everybody's got a different theory. You can avoid all that if you understand what to look for. Number one, it's reductionism. That means if you're looking exclusively at information that reduces everything to a part, it's not going to put it all together for you. Reductionism means looking at a part and missing the whole, essentially. And we see that in modern medicine a lot. For instance, tomato products are part of a vegetable category called nightshades. Now, there's some research about nightshades being poisonous, and there's some theories saying that tomato sauce for decades, or for a long period of time, was served on pewter plates in the old days, and they had lead in them. So because people were suffering from all different kinds of poisoning that was not being able to detect, sometimes the tomatoes were considered, poisonous. Here's a good example of reductionism. Lycopene. You need lycopene for prostate cancer clients. So what are they doing? Making tomato sauces, they're drinking tomato juice. What this is doing is it's weakening the mineral stores in their body, because tomatoes are highly acidic. It's the #1 food they say don't even go near if you have arthritis or gout, for acid reflux, for GERD, or even for silent reflux, which is becoming increasingly popular, which is more about the lower esophageal sphincter here. Tomatoes are really offensive for that condition because they are really strongly acid-based. So when you're looking at lycopene, better to get it from another source, another red vegetable source, or more importantly, just even take it as a supplement. But we need to understand that whole concept of part versus whole. If we look at a part, we're going to miss the whole. And nutrition, we frequently do that. So it's an important consideration to understand nutritionally.
Some of the key takeaways from my conversation with Mr. Varona are that, making lifestyle changes, whether it's diet or exercise, can be very difficult. But doing it for a short amount of time is more attainable, maybe choosing 1 or 2 things to change, as he mentioned. I think another thing that's very helpful is sometimes we don't always have an awareness of either how we feel or what we're bringing into our body. So food journaling is a really great way just to bring some awareness, even if you're not making a lot of changes. Maybe you add an extra walk. Maybe you add more vegetables into your diet. All of this is just really being patient with yourself. And I think a lot of times, from the psychological aspects and things that I've studied, one of the points that they make is that if you're not able to achieve a certain goal, make the goal smaller, make it more attainable, kind of have those baby steps to where you want to go. So if you wanted to go for maybe working out 5 times a week, work out 1 day a week and then build up to 2 days a week. Or if you wanted to maybe add some supplements to your diet, or more vegetables, maybe, or even just taking meat out of your diet. Maybe you eat meat 1 day less a week than you did before. All of it just needs to be something that is attainable for you. You're already dealing with prostate cancer. You're already dealing with so many other factors. And it's important to make sure that you get support, you make these changes attainable for you so that you are able to get some success in it and be able to move on to that next step. And I think that even just getting support from family or friends, maybe somebody walks with you, maybe you look at meal plans, maybe you do some meal prepping with your family. There are a lot of incredible resources on YouTube if you look at any of the diets that you're looking at, whether it comes to taking meat out of your diet, adding more vegetables in. If you even just Google this and put this into YouTube as a search query, there's a lot of really great recipes to look at, and you can even get really specific to things that you like. I think all of this helps to just enable you to make the right choices for yourself over time. And if you have further questions or anything when it comes to diet or nutrition, please, as I said in the beginning of the video, leave them in the comment section below so we can ask our physicians and ask our nutritionists what those answers are and get them to you. It's a really great way that we can stay tuned in with what your needs are and get your answers. Also, if you need help with your particular prostate cancer case, you can reach out to our helpline at pcri.org/helpline. They're prostate cancer patients, and they themselves have made great changes in their diet. They have a lot of information to give. It's just a wealth of information. So I would encourage you to reach out to them. And please remember, most of all, you're not alone. We value you. You are an incredible person. You're going through a battle, and we just want to make sure that you take care of yourself through this process. And thank you so much for watching.